So this is Nietzche Quotes. I first started out with the Frederick Douglass quotes, and there's one quote actually I didn't mention that is an important one. And then it says that it's easier to make strong children than to fix broken men. It's easier to make strong children than it is to fix broken men. Okay, so this just goes to my Jean-Jacques Rousseau idea of allowing the person to be a person, to allow them to discover and freely form themselves, as long as they don't hurt anybody else. Okay, and the golden rule, right? Don't hurt anybody else. The four big evils: don't murder, don't rape, don't steal, and don't kill or hit. No violence, right? No violence, don't hit, don't rape, don't steal, don't kill. Looking at this society, I don't see any morality. I don't see anybody talking about morals. I think it's a bunch of immoralist freaks that just playing capitalistic games, putting on a false front, pretending like they're good people, but they aren't good people, because a lot of Americans are hitting their children. They're hitting their children. If you're hitting, that means you're putting violence on somebody, on an innocent person that hasn't done anything to anybody. At least they don't know any better. And if you think about, like, what would it take for you to hit an adult? What would it take? You don't hit a grown woman, right? That's unacceptable, right? Socially unacceptable to do that. But you can hit a girl, you can hit a boy, you can hit them all day long. So if we have no morality, we've got to start to begin with a moral framework from which to jump off of. And if you can't agree that murder is wrong, and that violence is wrong, and that raping is wrong, and that stealing is wrong, those are the four big ones. Okay, I got a whole moral core. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But if we can't even agree on those four, how are we going to advance? How are we going to go anywhere if we can't even agree on the big four evils? Don't do those things. If you're hitting your kids, you're an immoral fucker. You're capable of hurting them, killing them, raping them, to doing anything at all to them, to stealing from them. You don't give a shit. Also, Frederick Douglass says if a person quietly submits to the authority, then that is the level of injustice that can be put upon them. So if you can hit your kid, then you can murder them. You can rape them. And you can steal from them. If you can hit your kids, you have no set of moralities. You have nothing that'll stop you from doing any type of things. You have no conscience. You don't give a shit. And the fact that the Bible says spare the rod, spoil the child, that type of fucking bullshit, it's fucking wrong, and it's fucking bullshit. So I wanted to mention that because I think that's true. I see a lot of broken men. I see a lot of psychopathic males out here that don't give a shit when a cop murders somebody. Who doesn't give a shit when over 1 million Iraqis are genocided. Who doesn't give a shit if they're being tortured. Who doesn't give a shit. They don't give a shit. They have no fucking morals. They got no morality. There's nothing there that is actually, stopping them from doing what's right. And then, I'm an atheist. So if you was to say, well, I'm a Christian, so I'm a good person. Well, possibly, but it's your fear of hell and your fear of whatever that's making you a good person. I'm good for goodness sake. I do what is right because, frankly, it's just logical. The golden rule is logical. I don't want to be murdered. I don't want to be raped. I don't want to be hit. I don't want to be stolen from. And if we can't even agree on the big four evils, there is no fucking morality here. Dog eat dog capitalism. Do whatever the fuck you can do to get away with whatever the fuck you want to get away with, and just keep going. Who gives a shit, right? So that's absolutely true. Learn Jean-Jacques Rousseau, because we're essentially assuming that humans are evil. So we're going with the Hobbesian notion that you got to smash evil. You got to make them submit. You got to form them. But the human spirit, the human soul, everything about Frederick Douglass says slavery is fucking wrong. And actually, I almost want to put that as the big five evils. Slavery. To oppress someone, to kill their fucking humanity. That's essentially, if you don't think a person has any humanity, you can hit them, rape them, rob them, murder them. Fuck them. Who gives a shit? No, we got to respect each other's consciousness. They have to live life, and we also have to, we can build culture together, okay? So that's this is Nietzche quotes, and I just want to start off with these two things. So there's this article here where the dinosaurs, Christians against dinosaurs, such a stupid fucking group, to be honest with you. They alienate so many fucking people. It's just really a small clique. I used to think it was atheists pretending to be Christians, but I think there's actually some fucking Christians that get caught up in this shit, and I think there's also some I don't understand what the fucking point is. They pretend to be these Christians who don't believe in dinosaurs, and they're shitty to atheists. They're shitty to, anybody who believes in dinosaurs. They say that, like, all murderers believed in dinosaurs. Therefore, those who believe in dinosaurs are murderers. Come on. There's a fucking break in logic there. So they posted an article about how the Smithsonian had destroyed all these skeletons, these giant skeletons, and I got this article here that says it's fake. So this is really a time, I guess a teachable moment, or it could be a time when Americans again slide. Right? We did get the interview is now showing in theaters, so we was able to win something. But we don't give a fuck about the torture, the war, the murders that the cops are doing. We don't give a fuck about real shit, the actual, immoral things. So it's, you got to find out what's true, what's not true. And then when you start asking those questions, and you'll start to figure out, well, there's some things, this is what I think is true because of this. We don't even know what happened with JFK. We don't even know what happened with 9/11. But motherfuckers are going to sit there and put their lives on the line for a mythological god, that was created by Constantine in 325 AD, a mythological god who's also his son and who also had sex with his mother to give birth to himself. And he was praying to himself in the garden while somebody was writing about the entire thing. And then you have virgin birth, right? The resurrection, the walking on the water, and then also the weird ass quotes, peace on earth. Basically, in Matthew, Jesus says that he did not come in peace; he came with a sword, and he wanted to turn a son versus father, daughter versus mother, and daughter-in-law versus mother-in-law. They want to turn everybody against each other. So that's the great peace guy. The character Jesus, the idea of what I understand of him is that he was a hippie. He was for peace, love, justice, honor, dignity. He hung out with the muck. He hung out with the poor. He was a long-haired hippie wearing sandals, going around talking about freedom, peace, justice, fighting against the empire, saying it's time for us to be free. Don't bow down to the Roman emperor because only God is supreme, and so therefore only God is who should dictate you. And there's something about that. I don't believe in God, but I do understand, like, myself as being God. So when you worship, in God, makes me think of the Benjamin Franklin quote where he says that resistance to tyranny is obedience to God, because your own humanity requires you to resist against the tyranny, and therefore when you resist against other people trying to tell you what to do, you're being obedient to a higher power than the other fucking dickheads out there, the fascist fucking assholes, namely yourself. You're being loyal to yourself. Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. So Pope Francis is actually coming out, and he's doing the Catholic Church a world of wonders. A world of wonders. Because the Catholic Church has been murdering motherfuckers for, 1,000 years. Spanish Inquisition, you got the Hitler, Mussolini, the Russian czars. You got so much fucking bloodshed that's on the Catholic Church's hands. The entire Native American genocide, 100 million Native Americans gone, wiped out. Christopher Columbus. So, the Catholic Church also with all the pedophiles, they hating the homosexuals. There's just so much fucking bullshit that's actually coming out the Catholic Church. Pope Francis is actually becoming more like the Dalai Lama. He's becoming a spiritual leader. And so he is not a politician, but he's going around saying these incredible things. That, homosexuals are okay. That atheists can make it to heaven. There are atheists who do good works in the earth versus Christians who do shitty stuff. And he says the question authority. He points out the pedophilia. He says 2% of all the Catholic priests and cardinals and bishops are pedophiles. 2%, that's 8,000 clergymen that are pedophiles. There's no nuns in the church. He says that there's a time for change. And he's absolutely right. It is a time for change. He says that the corruption out of the Vatican needs to come out. Well, all these things that he's saying, he's really He's also talking about inequality, how fucking inequality is fucked up. We're living in the second Gilded Age. So this makes me all think about Pope John Paul. When you buck the owners that be, the financial international bankers, when you buck the powers that be, they'll eventually find a way to fucking kill you. And so they did this with Pope John I. He was Pope for 3 days, and this was back in 1978. So he supposedly Pope John Paul, he was known as the Smiling Pope. He was going to change things radically, sort of like how Pope Francis is doing. You also had William Justice Goebel, who got shot, and so there's a Green Party candidate right now. You have socialists who are being elected in Latin America. When in Chile, 73, America had assassinated a socialist leader who was democratically elected. So, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that people are speaking out about. They're taking on that fucking fear, and they're actually standing up for the shit that is to be right. So Pope John Paul I, supposedly he was going to be this big radical, going to change things. Within 33 days, he was found sitting up in his chair reading a newspaper. Now, there's, conspiracy theories about what actually happened. Something about him being tied with the mafia. The Godfather 3 had him tied with the mafia. You have Pope John Paul's death. It's inaccurate statements about who found the body, what he was reading, when and where an autopsy could be carried out. So a lot of fucking conspiracy theories came out about who actually killed him. And so there's, several books, something John Cornwell, Lucian Gregory's. The 1990 motion picture Godfather Part 3 featured a story element depicting Societe Generale Immobiliare, the largest real estate company in the world, whose former largest shareholder was the Holy See and the Vatican Bank, involved in organized crime during after the death of the old Pope and the election of a fictional cardinal named Lamberto to the papacy. Lamberto takes the papal name John Paul I, and like the real Pope John Paul I, he mysteriously dies. He was in good health. He was like 50-something years old. So I think it's clear that he was murdered. It says here that he was murdered by a KGB hired killer. So, the truth is, I guess it's sort of elusive. I think you can nail down, but if there's no smoking gun proof, then we're all kind of just going with what we believe. But I think it's clear that there's something fucked up happened, right? You don't just die sitting up in your bed reading a newspaper, like what? So let's go with Nietzsche quotes. I feel like Nietzsche actually was I want to say harbinger, even though I'm not for sure exactly the definition of that word. But I feel like Nietzsche, he totally changed my life. Really, when I look at the world now, because I have Nietzsche a part of me, it's all very human, okay? And what I mean by that is people try to get over on each other. They don't respect each other. They don't love each other. They don't care about each other. Love is weakness, and it can be exploited against you. Nietzsche, on the other hand, he believes that there is the will to power, and that the will to power is in physics just like it is also in humanity. So for Nietzsche, that is really the core of his philosophy. And so if you think about the will to power, if you think about it as a person resisting like myself, or if you think about, what you do to counteract the will to power, a fascist asshole, all is force against force, nothing else. Physics, energy with a rock and a stick. If a rock hits the stick and the stick is weaker, it will break. If the stick is stronger, it will not break. The will to power that is in physics is also in humanity. For Nietzsche, there is nothing else. So if you're up against a rock and you're a strong stick, you won't break. If you're a weak stick, you'll break. And so that is, the will to power. You got to fight against it. You got to have some type of power to yourself. Even Frederick Douglass says that nobody can fight for you unless you fight for yourself. If you, help a man up and then he just puts his head right back on the curbstone, who gives a shit? Nobody's going to fight for somebody that doesn't fight for themselves. And so you got to have power. You got to have power for yourself. Power usually means to control and manipulate other people, but it also is power to build a road, power to build a bridge, power to, labor is power, to money is power, to be able to plow your field is power, to be able to clean your house and to raise crops and to go to work and do things. Those are all forms of power. So that is not a bad thing. I've been thinking power is a bad thing, right? Power is the enemy. That's all anybody gives a shit is power. And by hating power, I never wanted it for myself. But with Nietzsche, he says that's human. It's human nature to want power. And so therefore I've been denying a part of my human nature. William Glasser says the same thing. And actually I want to get into more William Glasser because he has not only, his core tenets of philosophy, but he also has how we talk through this stuff, how we negotiate through this. So the secret of the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment of existence is to live dangerously. So he also talks about how man has to rediscover the seriousness he possessed as a child at play. So when you were playing, you were very serious. And you need to rediscover that. That's a man's maturity. The secret of the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment of existence is to live dangerously. I don't really agree with that, but I like the sentiment. The sentiment is sort of to live, and let live, to not be governed by fear, to do what you want to do. And when you do what you want to do, then, you're not afraid to live. And there are people that are afraid to live. They just do as they're told. And if you do as you're told, you don't have morality. Obedience means you do as you're told without any regard to if it's right or wrong. Übermenschlich is superhuman. So this is another central concept of Nietzsche. He says it's a concept in the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche had his character Zarathustra posit the Übermensch as a goal for humanity to set for itself in the 1883 novel Thus Spoke Zarathustra. As a work of fiction, the utterances Nietzsche assigned to his Zarathustra are not immediately discernible from his own thoughts and writings. So he believes that we should be supermen, superwomen, superhuman. We need to surpass the type of, master-slave relationship. Go past oppressed and the oppressors. To be superhuman, to be super artists, to be super type of people. Not be just achieve power to put it over on other people's sake. If a person has to enforce their ideas with violence, their ideas are absolutely worthless. Okay? So the Übermenschlich is the superhuman. We need to become supermen. And how do we be supermen? Well, there's the will to power. We become stronger. We become better. We become, more lasting. Man has something to be surpassed. In revenge and in love, woman is more barbaric than man is. I think there is something to that. The women that I have dated or have been around, they have no sense of morality or they don't give a shit. Women are very good at consoling with each other and, sort of caring about what other women say, assuming that the man is just evil. And they love each other, They don't mind hugging each other and telling each other how hot they are and how the good look, So they build each other's confidence up, and so they have all this sort of validating experiences. Whereas men, I have really just wrote off as just being a bunch of fucking assholes. They don't validate you if you have a bad fucking life. That's hilarious to them, right? You fell down in the mud puddle, ha ha ha, fuck you. Whereas if a woman falls down in the mud puddle, you got, a troop of women and men who's going to try to pick her up and clean her off. And so, since I would not go back to before feminism, so that is not where I'm coming from. I am coming from the experiences of when you treat women as equals, that they run roughshod all over you if you don't show any type of power for themselves. Even Beyonce says the same thing. She says if Jay-Z did not, stand tough and stand tall for himself, she wouldn't respect him. And so, if you just say, well, let the woman do whatever she wants to do, she'll run all over you. She'll fucking treat you like a slave and treat you like a fucking douche. I don't want to be a master. I also don't want to be a slave. I'm an equalist. And I want, things to be equal, and I want things to be fair. So, what we experience in dreams, assuming that we experience it, often belongs, in the end, just as much to the overall economy of our soul as anything experienced. Actually, we are richer or poorer on account of it. God is a thought which makes crooked all that is straight. Yeah, Nietzsche's like the bad boy of philosophy is what I remember. The Simpsons, they had a correlation with the Simpsons. He would be like the Bart Simpson in philosophy. But I want to talk about, what we experience in dreams. I'm not sure exactly what he means by that. But something about how dreams are a part of us. And at the very basic level, dreams for Sigmund Freud are simple wish fulfillments. Okay, I remember dreaming about, a woman named Courtney, and I wanted to be with Courtney, and so that is a wish fulfillment. I also had a weird ass fucking dream last night just about all my old school classmates. Some of them were doing really bad off. Some of them were doing okay. I don't know. It was weird. I basically saw a lot of people in this dream I had last night. So, man is a rope stretched between the animal and the Ubermensch, a rope over the abyss. So, at the very basic level, if you think that we're just a bunch of Hobbesian, evil fucking people, we're just a bunch of animals. And since we're just a bunch of animals, then we need to have people tell us what to do and to manipulate us. You need to have the Leviathan that crushes down on any type of gang that might pop up. Any militia, any Crips, any sort of, what's those people? The Minutemen, any militia, the George Washingtons, right? So any type of militia that would ever exist that would come to threaten the Leviathan, and in the same way, this is the household, the cult of the father household. In the same respects, you have, the man has to crush any type of rebellion that might happen against him. So the Leviathan, so we're treating people like a bunch of assholes, right? Because they're just a bunch of fucking animals. If you don't have rules and tell them what to fucking do, then they're just going to be bad, evil, fucking immoral people. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I believe that we are capable of good as well as capable of evil. It just depends on which wolf you feed. Which wolf do you feed? So one repays a teacher badly if one remains always a student. That's genius. That's an absolute genius quote. That just means if I'm trying to teach you how to ride a bike and you get on that bicycle and you don't fucking learn how to fucking ride it and you always need my fucking guidance and shit, you're not doing me a favor. You do me a favor when you get on the bike and you fucking ride it. Because if you can ride that goddamn bike, then I was a good fucking teacher. Yeah, go ahead and hate my fucking, blasphemy or whatever, goddams and Jesus Christ and shit, but let's just go to the story that I just heard from Vice News. They had I think it was in Africa, a village in Africa, they had tied an orangutan up to, they chained her up in a room and put her on a mattress. And so lots of weird fucking men, they had options of being with a female prostitute, a human, or an orangutan. And since that was sort of a novel thing, right? Whoa, who's ever been with an orangutan? They made money off of it, and there was a demand for it. So they had, they turned an animal into a sex slave, and the village fought for them. It took like 35, militia people to actually go in there and to rescue her, and even then, the madam was like, she's taking my baby. She's taking my baby. Yeah, your baby that you chained up and let any motherfucker fuck, the shit out of her whenever they fuck. There is no fucking God. And so for motherfuckers, the fucking crazy amounts of fucking evil, we can blow ourselves up. Let's grow the fuck up, okay? Grow the fuck up. There is no, God and Jesus is just Santa Claus for adults. Grow the fuck up. Grow the fuck up. Get over your mental illness and start understanding people and rationality and reason and logic. Those things are limiting. What we can see, what we observe, what we can figure out for ourselves with logic and science, they're limiting. Okay? But it's all that we got. And science has created so much. We've gone to the moon. We've got computers. We've got, building houses. And we've got a lot of good things out of science. So it's limiting, but it's so fucking powerful. And it makes absolute sense. Since that's all we got, you're going with faith. Faith is just, I'm just going to believe just for the fuck of it. I believe because, there is no evidence. So who gives a shit? I'm just going to fucking believe it. Just for the fuck's sake. Just for fuck's sake, I'm going to believe shit. Well, that's dumb. And you're dumb if you fucking believe in that dumb shit. Be spiritual. Be, self-expressive. Believe in yourself. Believe in the five senses that you have. But stop believing that there's an invisible man up in the fucking clouds looking down at you, smiling at you like you a good motherfucker. So one repays the teacher badly if one always remains a student. Many brief follies, that is what you call love in your marriage, puts an end to many brief follies with a single long stupidity. There is something to that. The chase is ended when you get married, and married people, once they get past like 7 years, they just die. They don't try for each other. They don't appreciate each other. And so there is something about, I've heard women and men talk bad about marriage. The institution of marriage just seems absurd and ridiculous. Because, nobody can be owned. I don't know. I mean, if you find loyalty and love, want to love and be with another person forever, you're going to have to always cherish them every day. But if you say, well, she's going to be there forever so I can do as I want to do, well, you're going to, you're going to ruin that relationship. But if you think, well, that person can leave at any moment, So I'm always going to make sure, that I'm happy, they're happy, and we're going to do this, partnership together. So to demand of strength that it should not express itself as strength, that it should not be a desire to overcome, a desire to throw down, a desire to become master, a thirst for enemies and resistance and triumphs, is just as absurd as to demand of weakness that should express itself as strength. Now, I'm not sure what it says about that. Don't be a hypocrite is really what it says there, but someone's saying that if you don't, the strength should look like strength, and weakness shouldn't look like strength, right? Well, I'm weak, so that means I'm strong. And then there are some women that pretend like the little baby girls, and they get everything for it, right? Oh, little baby girl, here's everything. Well, I want an adult. When it comes to who I date, I want a woman who is ready to ride or die with me, who doesn't believe that love is just me, her allowing me to touch her. That is, I allow her to touch me. Okay, so I'm the prize, and just as much as she's the prize, right? Where we're all sort of have our own egos and our own gods and shit. But I want an adult. I want justice is love. Justice is love. Love isn't just touching somebody. Love isn't hugs and kisses. Justice is love. Of all that is written, I love only what a man has written with his blood. Write with blood, and you will find that blood is spirit. And there's something to that. If you're just kind of idling saying something and just kind of saying something here and there, then you're not actually, saying what it is that needs to be said. He says when he writes with like lightning. He writes as if he's never going to write ever again. That he wants the world to hear what it is that he is saying. And that's the exact way you should write. Instead of saying, well, I'm going to start with this and start with that and start with the preamble and then go with that and then there's the climax. No. Make a movie where the entire movie is a climax. So beauty's voice speaks gently. It creeps only into the most awakened souls. It speaks gently, it creeps in only the most beauty. I'm not sure what he's saying with that. But write with blood. Convictions are more dangerous enemies of truth than lies. And I believe in a categorical imperative, right? Like I said, talk about the 4 big evils. Don't murder, don't kill, don't steal, and don't rape, and don't hit, right? Don't hit. Those are the 4 big evils. Those are convictions that I have. But I see exceptions to each one of those. In self-defense, you're allowed to shoot to defend yourself. If someone's raising a gun towards your head, you have a right to shoot that person to save yourself. That is justified. And that's the only time murder is justified is in self-defense. So when you think about when would you ever hit another man, or if you're a woman, when would you ever hit another woman, the only times it seems like you would do those things is if they're about to hit you. And that's the only time you can hit a kid. It's defense of yourself or defense of another. That's the only time violence should happen. Is defense of yourself or defense of another. So, while there are exceptions, I like, just going around hitting people, just going around killing people, raping people, stealing from people. That shit that's for the birds. Fuck that shit. The thing I like about Nietzsche, too, is even though, I don't really, the conviction things, I can see that in forms of sort of Christianity. My daddy told me to believe in God, so I'm just always going to believe in God no matter what, He's a Santa. Santa going to give me gifts, and I love my daddy. My daddy's dead, and I want to see him in heaven, and I just love him, and well, if that's your conviction, if your convictions are stupid, fuck your convictions. You haven't thought about enough. Your fucking convictions are fucking blocking the truth than lies. A person can lie, and then actually that, covers up your fucking bullshit. So, I can understand the quote, but he's basically, Nietzsche's philosophy is that there has to be a sort of a difference interpretation of what's moral, what's right, and what's wrong. A transformation type of thing. So we look at our society, we look at all the institutions of it, we question everything, and then once we've questioned everything, you keep what is good, you keep what is right, you keep what is happening, and then, and you grow, and that's actually, you probably should have a Nietzsche moment, like at least once a year. I don't know, December 27th seems like a good fucking idea to have a Nietzsche moment, probably like once a month, right? Just sort of reevaluate yourself, reevaluate where you are the things that you're saying. If I get to a point where I'm saying, well, shit, You know, everybody else is getting away with stealing, raping, murdering, and hitting people. You know, well, I'm the dumb fuck for having these convictions. I try to, you know, suspect, okay, maybe my goodness, maybe my morality, my moral core is preventing me, but I like my moral core. I like who I am. I like what it is that I'm doing. I believe in goodness and I believe in righteousness, and so I'm going to keep it and I'm going to hold on to it. And that actually makes my beliefs stronger because I questioned it. Now my convictions of what I believe to be so right is going to be, you know, that much more. Also, it'll discard any of the dumb shit that I fucking believed beforehand. So, you know, you should have a reevaluation. That's the word. Reevaluate, you know, your beliefs and what you believe to be moral. The worst enemy you can meet will always be yourself. You lie in wait for yourself in caverns and forests. And there's something to that. Gatewood Gabber said a lot of people wouldn't be convicted of crimes if they didn't have the penchant to confess or to tell them themselves. So, you know, there's since you know your weakness is the best, then, you know, that's absolutely a good ass quote. You are your own worst enemy. I can understand something like that. You know, it seems like other motherfuckers who have no morality, they lie through their fucking teeth. And if you lie and you put on a show, nobody knows any fucking truth. But if you say, hey, well, yeah, he hit me, but I hit him back. You know, I punched him right in his fucking mouth. He hit me first. Also, you admit that you hit him. Actually, I remember Adam Grouse telling me a story that he had let his roommates borrow some money and was paying for their bills, and they wasn't going to pay him back. And so he took all their property and he put it into another place. And the cops came up to him and they said, well, what happened? He says, well, they owed me money, so I'm holding this for collateral. And then he goes to jail. But the fucking original crime happened against him. So they just went after the fucking victim who was actually standing up for himself. And that's absolute bullshit. The adjective Übermenschlich means superhuman in the sense of beyond human strength or out of proportion to humanity. Superhuman. Nietzsche introduces the concept of Übermensch in contrast to the otherworldliness of Christianity. Zarathustra proclaims the Übermensch to be the meaning of the earth and admonishes his audience to ignore those who promise otherworldly hopes in order to draw them away from the earth. The earth. The earth. We are the earth. We're the stars. We're birth. Everything about us is the earth. That is, we've gotten away from the earth. And so actually I understand something like that. You know, George Collins says he can understand worship in the sun. He can understand worship in the earth because he sees those things. Whereas Christianity doesn't offer any type of things that you could see. Just have faith and fucking bullshit. Nah, it's all bullshit, but just have faith. Fuck it. You know, Santa Claus is real. Just believe it. And then they transform. And then they do believe, right? Because they bought into this fucking myth. And therefore they can be manipulated and they believe in dumb shit for the rest of their life. And they're mentally ill and they try to put that mental illness on everybody else. You know, it's sort of like the, those guys that walk around every day. You're only 19 years old. You've been told what to fucking believe. And now Jehovah's Witness. Now you're going to tell everybody else what the truth is. Like, you know what the fuck is. You haven't even lived life, but you know the bullshit that your fucking, you know, asshole fucking preacher said. And then, and that's all that's based upon is like, what, Bronze Age fucking bullshit? You know, what worked for the Bronze Age isn't going to work for the postmodern internet generation, the postmodern, you know, society that we're seeing right now, the Generation X or the Generation Y or Generation Z. Are we at the Generation Z? So Zarathustra declares that the Christian escape from this world also required the invention of an internal soul, which would be separate from the body and survive the body's death. Part of otherworldliness then was the abnegation and mortification of the body, or aestheticism. Zarathustra further links the Übermensch to the body, to interpreting the soul as simply an abstract of the body. I've heard that quote too. I'm just a soul stuck in a body. No, you're a body and you have a soul. You have both of them, okay? Don't ignore the body part just for your soul. I get the soul thing. I get the idea. I have a soul yearning to breathe free. Yearning to breathe free. But I have a body too. And so for me to ignore my body, my mind, any parts to me, the earth, you know, my mother says that she used to say this. She don't say it no more. But she's living for, you know, God and for the afterlife. So her entire life is about when she dies, then she'll be happy. When she dies, she'll be happy, she'll be rich, she'll be powerful. But somehow she seems to ignore, you know, the parts of Christianity that says give all your wealth and all that other shit. So, you know, it just seems like well, I believe in God and I do what I'm told, so I'm a good little girl and I do what I'm told and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's, that's fucking crazy. Live for this life, live for your body, live for others, live for this earth, and, try to create something that will outlive your life. That's how you get immortality, also through your children. But also, create something that will make this world better. You don't want to, I don't understand actually the way my fucking parents do things. It's like they blaze a trail through a jungle and they think that I got to blaze my own fucking trail, whereas, I could have been something else. Why do I got to be a trailblazer instead of a goddamn, an artist or a comedian or something to the next level? And that reminds me of John Adams' quote. He says he's going to be a revolutionary so his kids can be farmers and doctors, and then their kids can be actors and artisans and whatever. So there's that you don't need to have, a goddamn fucking violent revolution every time. You don't need to fucking blaze another trail through the jungle. If the fucking jungle has a goddamn trail, well, there's a trail. Use the fucking trail to get back and forth to people, could talk to people, and, build culture, respect consciousness. Let's stop the war, stop the fucking violence, stop the fighting. Stop the raiding, stop the killing, stop the hating, stop the stealing. The enemy isn't hate, the enemy is fear. Okay, so stop the fear. Stop the fear. Be more than who you are, What is it he says? Be a Ubermensch, be a Superman. Ride in blood. Be a Superman. Ride in blood. Live dangerously. Stand up. Be strong. Live dangerously. There's actually a ton of quotes here. I'm going to come back to this, but that's sort of some Nietzsche. Clear the way for love to shine through. For Rudiger Safransky, the Ubermensch represents a higher biological type reached through artificial selection. At the same time, is also an ideal for anyone who is creative and strong enough to master the whole spectrum of human potential. Good and evil to become an artist, tyrant, and ecce homo. Nietzsche vehemently denied any idealistic, democratic, or humanitarian interpretation of the Ubermensch. The word Ubermensch designates a type of supreme achievement as opposed to modern man, good men, Christians, or other nihilists. When I whispered into the ears of some people that they were better off looking for a Caesar Borgia than a Parsifal, they did not believe their ears. Safransky argues that the combination of ruthless warrior pride and artistic brilliance that defined the Italian Renaissance embodied the sense of the Ubermensch for Nietzsche. According to Safransky, Nietzsche intended the ultra-aristocratic figure of the Ubermensch to serve as a Machiavellian boogeyman of the modern Western middle class and its pseudo-Christian egalitarian value system. So there's two different interpretations. They're sitting there saying that he's saying, fuck humanity, fuck democracy, fuck any type of goodness or whatever. But really, some people say that he was doing that to break the illusions that his society, he's written in the 1800s, right? I'm just now discovering him today. But he's saying you got to break free, break through, that type of fucking mentality. Have a reevaluation of morals. And then eventually, if you believe being humanitarian is good or democratic or, any type of idealistic type of fucking notions, if you believe them to be true, which I do, and then you can come back to them. So Nietzsche actually fucking loses his mind at the end of the fucking, he has a mental breakdown and loses his fucking mind. So some people say, fuck Nietzsche because that happened. Well, okay, that's fine, fuck Nietzsche. But Nietzsche put up these ideas which I believe are worthy of consideration because they're fucking brilliant. There's some incredible fucking things that's going on here. In fact, he was so smart, Hitler used Nietzsche as his emblem. Hitler used Nietzsche as, he says, let's be supermen, and that's what the Nazi socialists were supposed to be. They were supposed to be the great Aryan nation, right? They were supposed to be supermen. But Hitler actually bastardized Nietzsche's fucking ways and Nietzsche's thoughts because Nietzsche says all anti-Semites should be shot. So therefore, all anti-Semites should be fucking shot. He would have said fucking Hitler should have been killed. So Hitler basically, kind of like, I don't know, Jesus or anybody else, any other figure, you just put yourself next to the figure so many times, you become that figure. And so, fuck Hitler. But Nietzsche's ideas, he's a philosopher. These are just ideas written on paper. Interpret it how you want. but there's something to the will to power, and it's also human, you know. I don't forgive anybody for the shit that they've done to me, but I see the human perspective of it. I see the humanness of wanting to dominate over somebody and say, hey, you better do as you're told. And then I see the humanness of wanting to be dominated over and being submissive and therefore doing, you know, what your master likes. I see the humanness of it, but I don't fucking agree with it. I fucking say, fuck hierarchy, and I still am there. Maybe I should question hierarchy, you know? All right, we're going to come back to Nietzsche. So that's a little bit some Nietzsche. We're going to get some more Nietzsche quotes coming up.